everyone, so today I'm going to be reading you my very first wrap-up of 2017. January was actually a pretty good reading month for me. It was hella fucking busy. I'm going to be talking about all of the different stuff I got up to in January in my January favourites. Although I have a feeling my favourites videos might be more of like reflection videos for the month. I don't know. We'll see what happens when I start filming it. But yeah, all the reading I did in January. This wrap-up also includes my Diversathon wrap-up. My housemate just showed up at my door with a cup of tea. And I'm literally the happiest person in the world. I'm going to kick it off by talking about the books that I read for the Diversathon. The first of those was Homegoing by Ya Jessie. This was the group read for the last Diversathon, and I didn't get to read it back then, but I'm so glad that I read it this time around. This is a book that spans 3 continents and 7 generations. It begins with 2 sisters in Ghana, one who is sold into the slave trade, and one becomes the wife of a slave trader. We then follow through each generation of their families, and we see the ripple effect from things from previous generations affecting each newer generation. I thought this book was so masterfully done. Like, the transitions between generations were done so seamlessly. Like, it was so impressive just how she managed to get it to flow and seem so natural and authentic. My one criticism is that I felt like I needed a bit longer with some of the characters, particularly towards the end. And I wasn't a big fan of the ending. I felt like it tied it together almost too neatly. I feel like it made some of the main messages in the book really, really obvious and really spoon-fed to the reader when I don't think the reader really needed that. From my perspective anyway. I learned a lot from reading this book. There was a lot about the different kind of culture there is in Ghana, lots of stuff I didn't know about kind of how the societal roles and structures work and customs, and it made me really aware of how systematic and ingrained racism is. You know, I do try and remain clued up on things like this and try and be a good person or a good ally or a good friend, but whenever I read a book like this, I just see things from another perspective, and it's so important to do that as a reader and as a person, I think. Learn from as many different kind of experiences as possible. The second book I read for the Diversathon was Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng, and oh my god, I devoured this book. I read it in a day. It was so fucking good. So this is about a Chinese-American family in Ohio in the 1970s, and in the present day of the book we see a family dealing with the death of their middle child of the family, Lydia. We move around in the timeline a lot. We see how the parents in this family met and their relationship up to their marriage and them having kids. We see the kids when they're younger. There are 3 children. So we have the oldest child, Nath, and then we have his 2 younger sisters, Lydia, the one who is found drowned in the lake, and the youngest sister, Hannah. I love books about families so much, and those different and interesting family dynamics, how families are created in the sense of how different people are put together in one space and have to work as a unit, and how complicated those relationships can be. And all that kind of stuff was in this book as we look at the lead up and aftermath of Lydia's death. A lot to do with being Chinese in America in this book as well, the different societal treatments of Chinese people compared to American people. And I suppose that's kind of one of the points that this book is making, that Chinese American is a thing. I just want to shove this book into everyone's hands. It is so good. It is so well written. It is so incredibly moving. Another book that I read this month was The Dancers Dancing by Eilish Ní Shomhna. This is set in the 1970s. It is about a number of girls, teenage girls, who go off to the Gaeltacht in Ireland. If you don't know, the Gaeltacht is kind of like this summer camp that a lot of Irish teenagers go to in order to immerse themselves in a different kind of Irish culture and also to improve their Irish language skills. That's the idea of them anyway. And this looks at a number of teenage girls and their experiences while at the Gaeltacht and their first opportunity at liberation from their parents and all the things that kind of come with being a teenage girl. We also see how they begin to become aware of politics and the political situation in Ireland. This is such a quiet book and not a huge amount happens. It is kind of just like we spend this number of weeks with these girls and share their lives, and it was really nice to read a book that wasn't kind of particularly action or plot heavy or mysterious. It was just, I got to spend some time with these girls. I really enjoyed this book, and I put quite a lot of sticky tabs on it. I also read a sci-fi book this month. I read The Long Way to a Small and Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. Everyone loves this book, and I can see why. I don't think like space travel, sci-fi, alien stuff is kind of my thing. I just don't know if I get on with it. Like, I am yet to find a sci-fi book like that where I'm like, yes, I love this book. I enjoyed this book. I really liked how it presented sexuality as such a fluid thing and something that differs between different cultures, and gender as well, how the gender norms are so different between species. I thought a lot of the comments that the book was making about race were really important. So I can see why people really enjoyed this book. You know, there are touching moments in it. There are very funny moments in it. There are very intelligent moments in it. I don't know. I just don't think I like space and aliens and stuff. I would still highly recommend this book. I think if you do want to try some sci-fi, this is a really good book to start with or give a go. I just don't think it's going to stay with me and be as important to me as it is for a lot of people. I also read a short story collection this month, and that was Difficult Women by Roxane Gay. I read that right at the start of the month. I don't want to go into too much detail on all of the stories in this book. Some were stronger than others. That's what you tend to find with short story collections. And the one that really stood out to me was the one that I knew about going into the book, and I knew it was going to be something that I was interested in, and it is about a young woman who pays for college through working as a stripper. I thought that was brilliantly written and so emotional and tense and uncomfortable to read. I would say that this collection comes with a trigger warning for sexual violence towards women, but this short story collection is brilliantly done. I would highly recommend it if you are interested in like feminist stuff at all, or you want to learn more about that kind of thing. It's so good, and I definitely think it's one that I want to reread. I also read 2 poetry collections this month, the first of which was Let Them Eat Chaos by Kate Tempest, and this was shortlisted for the Costa Poetry Prize. I love Kate Tempest so much. Kate Tempest is a slam poet stroke musician, and if you don't want to read the collection, you can listen to it on Spotify because she's made it into an album, and the album is just so good. Like, the words of the poems on the page themselves are brilliant, but combining it with what she's done with it musically is just, oh, it's so good. So in this collection, Kate Tempest looks at one night in London. She looks at the lives of several people on this one street, what they're doing, why they're doing it, how they're feeling about it, how their lives are contextualized within the wider political sphere. And in this collection, Kate Tempest is doing what I think is absolutely brilliant, where she's so specific that it's universal. Like, she talks about on the walls how there are grease stains from blue tack. Just such a specific detail, but if you've ever stayed in like crappy accommodation, or you yourself have had posters up on your walls, you understand that. You can relate to that. Just do yourself a favour and go listen to the album. The other poetry book I read this month was Milk and Honey by Rupi Kaur. I read this a couple days after one of my very good friends read it, and we had very similar feelings on it, I think. Which was, it wasn't as good as the hype made it out to be. I have put a lot of sticky tabs in it, but looking back at them now, I don't know if I tabbed them because I thought they were good poems or because they just hit me in the emotions. And those two things can work together, but there were just a lot of poems in this where I'm like, is this a poem or is this just a motivational quote with line breaks in it? I really like the illustrations in this, and I do like when she kind of makes the illustration work with the form of the poem. I thought that was really cool. There were some poems in this that I really did like, but particularly in the last section, the healing section, I just felt like I'd googled emotional motivational quotes. I do think this is worth reading, particularly if you are a young woman, if you've been through some shit. Like, I had a good old cry when I read this, but I don't know if that's because I enjoyed what she was doing poetically, or if I was just like, oh, she understands my emotions. And I think that is part of poetry, a really important part of poetry, the ability to articulate a feeling, the ability to put a feeling into words. But I just wasn't as blown away by this as I expected to be. And the final book I want to talk about is one I am not quite finished yet, but I should be finished reading by the end of the month, because I am filming this a little bit before. And it is my non-fiction read for the month. I'm trying to read at least one non-fiction book per month. That's one of my 2017 reading goals, and I've kicked it off with Girls Will Be Girls by Emer O'Toole. This is a book about performing gender. It is about gender constructions and gender norms and how we can challenge them. It is about how deeply embedded and enshrined gender stereotypes are in our society. Emer O'Toole grew up in Galway and then moved to Dublin. This has a particularly Irish angle that I can really relate to and I'm really interested in, and I actually ended up putting this in quite a significant bit of my research for my writing project that I'm doing at university, which I handed in late last night. This is brilliantly written, and if you want a look at gender that is backed up in actual studies and statistics, as well as anecdotal stuff, then I really suggest you pick this up. An amazing cover as well. If you want your reading about gender and feminism to get a bit more in depth and looking at how it's ingrained in society as opposed to how it manifests in society, then this is a really fantastic book. It's also very, very funny. So yeah, this book is just absolutely brilliant and I cannot wait to finish it. So that is it for my January wrap up. I read 8 books in the month of January, which I'm very, very pleased about, especially considering how busy my life was. Let me know if you have read any of these books, if you have any thoughts on them, if there are any of them that you want to check out now that you've heard a little bit more about them. Do let me know all your thoughts down below, and I will see you guys in a few days.